Right.
Hey, Matt here for M3. This is the trick to staying in charge no matter what. And this is going to be posted in the group. So I want to say that this has a lot to do with our challenge and what we're facing and how to create thinking that gets us what we want versus doing old thinking that doesn't get us what we want. It gets us the same old results over and over again. Most of our thinking comes from the programming that lives inside of us, and that programming is habitual. It's running all the time and it's the same stuff, and therefore it gets the same results. But what I'm about to show you, the trick to staying in charge no matter what, is a way of creating new thinking. And so if you're having a hard time with the challenge right now, don't get emotionally involved with that. That's okay. That's perfectly normal. Everybody does this. And then just listen to this stuff here that I'm about to share about how to create solutions. It really is simple, and it's just a matter that we don't know how to do it. And that's what I'm about to show you here. So I'm going to share a screen and we're going to get going right now. So here it is, right at the top. No, that's not it. All right. Yes, that is it. So this is the trick to staying in charge no matter what. Same one right there. There's a story about a guy, Bob Proctor shares this a lot, and he shares it because it was an extreme situation. And the guy was in, it was during the times of the Great Depression, when anybody would they would work to get any job that they could. They would stand in lines. They stood in line for food, and everybody was bought into this idea that you couldn't even get a job. There was no money and there was no food. But this guy had decided that that was not the case for him. And on all the buildings, he saw signs that said no help wanted, because, you know, people were walking up asking for jobs all the time, and that took a lot of time for people in companies to deal with that. So they just put up the sign that basically says, stay away. Now, this guy, he had chosen to read those signs differently. He knew that if a company wasn't growing, then it was dying. There's no such thing as a sitting still. You're either moving forward into growth or you're dying off. That's just, change is the constant thing that's happening in the universe. This guy, intrinsically, he knew this, and then he decided that he was going to read the signs as, instead of no help wanted, that it was help wanted, because that meant that a company wasn't growing. And if they were saying that they didn't want any help, then they really wanted help. So what he would do is he was see the companies that had the signs that had no help wanted, and he would research about that company. He would research about their industry. He'd research about what they had done, and then he would come up with some really good ideas for moving them forward during these times. And he would make a call to the CEO or the owner or whatever, and he'd say, hey, I've done some research about your company and I've got some ideas that I think you're going to want to hear that will substantially increase your bottom line. And that's all that he did. And he could get a job anywhere, anytime. And he basically could set his own price because he had some great knowledge. He had some great ideas to share with people. And because he used his mind to create solutions during a time when people were operating from a point of view that they didn't feel like that there was any solution. So that's what we want to do here today. And that's what we want to talk about here today. So I want to refresh this with you, that you've decided to do something in a big way, and you're making a decision to go do the thing. So that means you're doing it no matter what. It's not a true decision to go do the thing that you want to do if you say, well, I can always retreat. I could go back. Maybe I'm not going to do it. It's only a true decision if you make the decision that you're doing it no matter what. I'm gonna dedicate my life to this thing and I'm gonna do it, or I'm gonna die trying. That's a real decision. I know that sounds very extreme because we're saying, well, I'm trading my life for this thing, you know, like I'm gonna do it or die trying. But you have to look at it from the point of view that you're trading your life right now for the results that you're getting. Are those results good enough for your life? And if they're not, it's time to switch it. And we're going to talk about decision here really quickly, because that decision to go get what it is that you want, saying that I'm doing it no matter what, is the only way that you're going to flip yourself over to the vibration or the frequency of what it is to have the thing. And our job is to envision what it's like to have the results already. That's how we get dialed into the frequency. That's how we feel it. And once we start to feel that thing, that's where the inspired actions show up. That's where the inspired ideas show up. Do this, talk to this person, take this action, whatever. These things show up at the strangest times too. It could be going to bed. You could be waking up from bed, whatever. It could be in the middle of the night. You wake up and you got the idea. So you want to write them down because you're creating those solutions by making the decision to go after your goal. And the decision to go after your goal is really just based on feeling what it's like to have it already. But you can't retreat. You can't go back. If you've decided that there's a retreat process there, then you've just knocked out any chances of being successful. And it's a simple thing. It's really a simple statement with the decision. You're changing, am I doing this, for I am doing this, no matter what. That's it. The moment you do that, you get on the frequency of your goal, and how you're going to do it begins to show up for you. That's it. We're going to be reviewing your results. You're going to be reviewing your results as you go through these things. And in life, you are. I say this relentlessly. Don't get emotionally connected with your results, winning or losing. Don't let those things define you, because even if you're winning and you're really happy, if I take your wins away from you, then what have you got? It was your wins that was making you happy. What you've got to learn here is how to create happiness no matter what. Happiness is a habit. It's something that you create from inside. So don't get emotionally involved in these results. Just look at them like a cause and effect. Like, I did this and I got that. That's all. It's not that it's bad or good. It's going to be positive or negative. It's going to be something that you want or don't want, but you can always course correct as you go. The real truth is that you want to get emotionally involved with that you're getting results. So be proud of yourself for getting actions or getting results by taking action. Because it's not failure until you stop producing results. That's all. So when somebody gives up on a goal or give up on a dream, it's because they stopped taking action toward it. That's how you really fail. You can never fail if you keep taking action toward it and you keep using this wonderful information that we're sharing. So I want to share that with you as you look at your results. Don't get emotionally involved with them. Just look at it like, hey, is that what I want? Is that not what I want? How do I want to change it? That's what we're going to do here. Albert Einstein was an absolute genius. We know that. And he made a statement here that makes such sense. We can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And it's true, because when we start thinking, that's not possible for me. Oh, this is what's wrong with it. We're getting emotionally involved with that. That's the thinking that's creating the problem. We have to create new thinking that's going to create a solution. It's going to open us up to the solution. So he really knew what he was talking about when he said that. It sounds like all these statements that people make, they sound like cool things to say, but when you dive into them deeper, there's a lot of relevance behind them. There's a lot of universal truth behind them. Same thing with Buckminster Fuller. He was an architect, and he said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Man, this applies directly to you. You can't continue to be your old self as you move into this new goal that you want to do, something you've never done before, something you're in love with, and you're not currently aware of how to do it. You can't take your old self into that old fear, doubt, and worry that's what's holding you back from doing that. You have to let that go. You have to build a new version of yourself. You have to build a new version of your life that makes the old version obsolete. You really must do that. And you have to learn to die to your old self. You have to let that go over and over again. This has a lot to do with the example that Jesus set for us of dying on the cross. You must die to your old self so that you can be resurrected to your new self. But you've got to have the courage and the guts to go through that. So the trick to staying in charge, what's the deal with our senses? See, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Well, we've been programmed to live through our senses. But here's the thing, nobody ever tells us. Our senses can only show us a little bit about what's happened in the past and what's going on right now. They don't have any bearing on what's going on in the future. And this is where we get things like report card syndrome or sales sheet syndrome, where people get emotionally involved with something that happened in the past, like a student saying, well, I got a D or an F, which really is just showing where their mind was a couple weeks ago on a test or some tests or whatever. But they begin to internalize that stuff because they're using their senses as they've been taught. And they say, well, I'm a D or F student, or I'm this type of salesperson. Like, look at this poor progress report that I have. I'm a poor salesperson. And this is where it gets really detrimental. You don't want to do that. You don't want to use your senses that way. You don't want to get emotionally involved with what's going on around you. You want to learn to use higher faculties of creation. You're God's highest form of creation, and thus you've been given these faculties to agree beyond any creature on this earth. And you don't know about them, so you've got to learn how to use them. And I'm here to tell you that they're not your senses. Don't use your senses. Just use your senses as this little guy, as you see right here, as antenna. You're just getting feedback from the world in the form of your results, but don't become emotionally involved with them. And it's a big paradigm shift for us to do this, because we've been taught to pay attention. Look at what's going on right now. Quit messing around, quit wandering off into space. When you're a kid, kids are told this stuff all the time in the classroom, parents, and I know this because I've done it myself. We want to encourage kids to use their senses the right way. They are useful, but they're not creative faculties. We want to encourage them to use them in the way that gets them the life that they want. So learning how to disconnect from your senses is something that we all have to learn how to overcome. And then we're going to step into something that we call our higher faculties. They're perception, imagination, intuition, will, memory, and reason. Perception is our point of view. That's how we see things, how we perceive them. Bob says this. He holds up it's very old school kind of leather bound book. And back in those days, they had the title printed just on the front, and that was it. And he holds the book up and he asks the person in front of him, he says, there's nothing printed on the cover of this book. Am I right or am I wrong? And the person goes, of course you're wrong. And he says, now there's nothing printed on the cover of this book. Am I right or am I wrong? And the person says, you're wrong. And he says, now the more I get you to focus on what's printed on the cover of the book, the more you're convinced that I'm right, or that you're right and I'm wrong. Is this correct? And the person says, yes. And so then Bob turns the book around on his side. And back in those days, those books didn't have anything, it didn't have a synopsis or anything printed on the back. It had nothing. So all they were dealing with was perception. It was a different point of view. And a big thing to take in from that is, in order for you to be right, it doesn't mean that somebody else has to be wrong, and vice versa. It's just always a different way of looking at things, where that's coming from. You can take on a perception of somebody else, somebody that that could succeed easily at what it is that you're wanting to do. And you can think about, what would they do? How would they feel about this thing? That's the higher faculty, and that's the use of the higher faculty of perception. Imagination, that's really, I feel, the highest faculty that we have. As humans, we have the ability to imagine so much more than any other animal form out there. Just huge imagination, anything that you can create. Imagination creates fantasies. And you learned how to use this as you got older, as an adult, in a negative fashion, because many people started to shoot down the ideas that you had as a kid. When you're a kid, it was okay to say, I want to be Superman, I want to be whatever, I want to be this superhero, I want to do this amazing thing. And everybody says, oh, that's really cute. You start to get older and people start to say, I need to smack some reality down on you. And here's the reasons why you can't do that. And if you're wanting to join our group, our adult group, then what you do is you come up with the reasons why things aren't going to work out and why things are bad. And then you can join the circle of the way most people are thinking. And that's the way most people start to use their imagination as they get older. When you're a kid, you knew how to do it right. Remember that. You got so much to learn from when you were a kid. You used your imagination properly. It's time that you resurrect it that way. You can create any solution to any problem that you want. You can see yourself being just as successful as you can imagine yourself being in the endeavor that you've chosen to do. Now, intuition picks up on vibrations and translates those vibrations. People say that I'm not intuitive. That's not true. We're all intuitive. And you know it if you've ever walked into a room where something was wrong and you just got there and you didn't hear anything said, and you just felt it. That's intuition. You feel that vibration, you feel the thing that's wrong, and you also feel when it's right. But if we tell ourselves that I'm not intuitive, then we don't pay attention to it. That's the only thing. Your intuition is going to pick up on the vibration of what's right for you when you've got emotionally involved with having your goal already. It's going to be through your intuition a lot of the times that you're receiving that. You're understanding that I need to talk to this person, I need to do this thing, or I need to take this action, or this is the right thing for me. That's intuition. Now, will gives you the ability to hold one picture on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of all outside distraction. Will takes your other higher faculties and it focuses them like a laser beam. Now, we're distracted today more than ever from our phones and our computers and our TVs and just a million and one things going on out there. So the development of your will is critical. It's something that we need to do, and just block everything out so you can focus all of your mental power on feeling what it's like to have what you want, on creating these solutions. You can't just spend a little time and then switch the channel from here and then switch the channel from there and then try to come back to it. And you can't expect yourself to do a good job that way. And you develop your will through the process of what we call meditation. People will focus on their breathing. Some people will focus on a dot on the wall, and other people like a candle flame. But you just focus on thinking about that thing, and then you develop that ability to only think about that one thing. And once you've developed the ability to think about one thing, you can focus that on anything that it is that you want. Memory is the faculty by which the mind stores and remembers informations. We think in pictures, so we're constantly referencing stuff like that. There's no such thing as a bad memory. It's a hard thing for people to swallow. There's only strong memories and weak memories. But a bad memory is just because we have a feeling associated with that. And if you want to go back, there's good and bad in everything. You can always go back to a memory that's causing you trouble, and you can ask yourself, what's good? What's good in that memory? And you can look for that thing, and then gradually every time that memory comes up, you can just think about the good thing, and you can change bad memory, what you call a bad memory, to a good memory just through association. Reason is what gives us the ability to think. That means we can form thoughts out of that awesome energy that's flowing into us nonstop until the day we finally expire, but that energy just flows to us and we can form any thought we want. The cool thing about reason is that you can't have a thought that you don't want. You can't have a thought forced on you. No situation can make you think something that you don't want. And Viktor Frankl talked about this in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He was in the worst setting that you could imagine in, I believe it was Auschwitz, in the internment camps in the war. He lost all of his family and everything, and he saw some of the most horrendous things in the world. But what he discovered during that time, that it didn't matter what was going on around him. What he discovered is that he could still generate any thought that he wanted. And we're all endowed with that wonderful gift of reason. Nothing can make you think something that you don't want. So remember that. When we give that away, well, we give everything away, because our thoughts cause our feelings. Our feelings is just the vibration that we're in, and we're either attracting or repulsing something based on that vibration. So when we give our thoughts away to other people, we're giving our life away to them. That's your higher faculties. So here's the deal. This is the way most of the world operates. It's called results into thinking. And this is what most of the world does. When we go back to what we were talking about with the Great Depression, most of the world was bought into an idea based on what was going on out there in the world, and they were taking it in through their senses. That was the present results. So you see the box around present results. So they were viewing the present results, they were living through their senses, and that was causing their thoughts. And then that caused their feelings, which caused them to take a particular action. When you do something in this world, it's because you feel something. And even when you're not doing something, because you're feeling the thing, you're still sending the vibration out in the world. So you're attracting things that are like that, and you're repulsing things that are not like that. But when you're doing that through present results, in this whole wheel that you see here, what you get is just more of the same over and over and over again. And we have this built into us in the form of a paradigm. We call it the paradigm, but it's your subconscious programming that's responsible for your results. It's responsible for 96 to 98% of what you're doing throughout your day. And it's so strong that we know that you can take a human out of their current situation and you can stick them in a completely different spot. You can put them in another state or another country, and they will reproduce the same results over and over and over again, all the way down to the most minute details. They'll have the same friends, the same problems, they'll make the same money. And we know this, and it's based on this right here, because they don't understand that they're operating with that stuff inside of them, and they reproduce that stuff so much that they've created a habit of living that life. And it's done because they don't understand that they're taking in present results as their senses, with their senses, and they're taking in those present results, causing them to think something, which causes them to feel something, and it gets the same action over and over and over again. We call it stuck, is what we call it. Now here's the simple shift. Whether somebody knows that they're doing it or not, this is why people get phenomenal results in the world. You don't have to understand this stuff to do this. Some people are unconscious competence and they do it automatically, but they can't tell you how they do it. They try to explain it and it just sounds like a jumbled mess. It's, I do this and I do that. This program, M3 Mastermind, and what I'm sharing here gives you the ability to understand what you're doing so that you can actually share it with somebody else. You can share it with your kids, you can share it with your family members. And it's such a simple shift. We call it thinking into results and thinking like the 1%, because 1% of the population actually earns, keeps, has 96% of the wealth out there. And that's why we say that. Think like the 1%. This is the thing that they're doing, whether they know it or not. You see the box there, it's around thoughts and ideas. So you see the box here, it's around present results. This box here starts with new thoughts and ideas. New thoughts. You begin the new thoughts. You don't use your senses. Using the things that we were just talking about up here: perception, imagination, will, reason. You use all those things to create new thoughts, generate new thoughts, which cause new feelings, which cause you to take new action, which produces new results. And then when you get those results, all you do is go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Some of it is going to be really good. You're going to like it, and other stuff you're going to say that's in favor of what it is that I want to do. And then some of it isn't. And the stuff that's not, you ask yourself, how do I want to change that? That's all. And then you begin again with new thoughts, and you run this cycle over and over again until you get your goal. Remember, use your senses just to collect the data from the action that you've taken, and then ask yourself, how do I want to change that? Feel what it's like to have that change already, and then take new action, get new results, and rinse, lather, repeat, as they say. Do it again and again and again. Don't let your current circumstances dictate your future. Don't do it, because you have all the ability inside of you to create any future that you want just through this simple process that I've shown you here. Napoleon Hill said that an educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything that they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. And education isn't about outside source, knowledge. It's about understanding who you really are, what you really are. Some people can be functionally illiterate and produce phenomenal results in their life. Like, why? It's because they're actually using the God-given gifts that they have inside of themselves. That's real education, is learning about you and who you are. Education comes from the root word educo, and it means to draw from within. It doesn't mean to go read a bunch of books and get confused and not sure about what you're doing and have a bunch of people tell you what to do. You contain everything that you need to go out there in the world and succeed in any way that you want. And it's going to be through this process that I'm sharing with you and educating yourself about you and what you're actually capable of. So one more time, I want to show this to you, the two different things here. On the left, you see the masses, what most people are doing. They start with present results. You see it, it's results, thoughts, feelings, and then actions. And it's like a circle. If you look right there in the center, the arrows are going around. The results that are right now, right here, are causing the thoughts, which are causing the feelings, and they're causing actions that are getting the same results over and over and over again. What does life look like? It's more of the same stuff. It's struggle, it's being stuck. That's what we call it. Now, the small, profound shift that I'm talking about on the right side, you look at the check mark. Well, they all begin with their thoughts. Just a little rehash here. Thoughts cause the feelings, cause the actions, which cause new results, but you must begin with the new thought. But when you do that, what happens with your life? You're always in charge. You can create any result that you want. Our higher faculties, by the way, memory, will, intuition, reason, perception, I think I got them there. They are perfect and they only require development. We liken it to, we've been taught so much to live through our senses. It's like going to the gym. If your senses are your right arm and your higher faculties are your left arm, you've never been taught to use your higher faculties. So it's like you go to the gym and you lift weights all the time with just your right arm, which would be your senses, and your senses become developed and they're always looking and you're tuned into your senses of what's going on, getting emotionally involved with it over and over again. And you haven't done anything with your higher faculties. Like this arm is just over here, it's atrophied. All you have to do is start using them again. Just continue to do it, persist in doing it, and you will watch your higher faculties get stronger and better and stronger and better, because your higher faculties are perfect. They were given to you that way. And all you have to do is just pick them up again and start developing them. They're not something you're either born with or not. That's a misnomer, especially with intuition. We all have the intuitive capability to see the world and pick up on vibration and feel it. We just got to get tuned into it. We've got to practice it, practice paying attention to it. Let go of that thinking that you're not good at that, because if you're thinking that, that's what's going to show up for you in your life. And begin by developing your higher action by taking, or your higher faculties by taking action now. This is what you want to do. You want to write out a situation that's not going well or something you would like to improve, and write the situation in detail. The devil's in the detail. Talk about the way that you're feeling, talk about what's going on, talk about, just get it all out on paper. And then notice the thoughts that you have naturally about this thing that's not going the way that you want it to go. Just notice them. Don't judge them. Don't get emotionally involved with them. Just notice it. As you just feel this stuff coming up, it's like, oh, okay, I feel that way. I feel that way. And then say, are my thoughts negative or positive? And it means, is this thought going to get me what I want? Or is this thought going to not get me what I want and it's going to keep me stuck? Just notice that. Now use your higher faculty of reason to have different thoughts about this, because as I said, you're God's highest form of creation. You can have any thought that you want. Form new thoughts. Just pluck them out of thin air. What other thoughts could you have about this? Think about ways to make it better. Write these ways down. Now use perception to see the situation through another person's eyes, through another person's point of view. See someone who could not fail at this thing. Somebody that's easy for. From their point of view, what do you see? What would they do? How would they feel about it? Write that down. Now use your imagination to see the situation already as you would like it to be, as amazing and awesome as you would like it to be, like it's already done. You've already surpassed this. You've already overcome this obstacle. Now backtrack and brainstorm the ways that you could have done that. What did you do? Tell yourself the story. Yeah, this is how I overcame this. Write your brainstormed ideas down. And the last one is your will. Use your will to hold your thoughts on any of the solutions you've produced in the previous 3 steps. If your focus shifts away and you start thinking about other stuff, just bring it back to the solution. Just let the other stuff go. If it doesn't feel good, it's not serving you. So just don't spend any time with it and get back on this other stuff that you've created, these wonderful solutions. Bring it back to the solution you've created and notice how you're feeling. And then notice this. What actions are you inspired to take? What's really calling to you? Write that stuff down, only focus on that, and then take the action. I want to encourage you guys, I posted in M3, I'm going to post this, you're going to see this. Read the article I posted. on Facebook and M3, the private group, the 333 story. It was a really cool thing about how people produced a phenomenal result in a very short amount of time. And they did it using a very simple process. And you can take that process and modify it for anything that you're wanting to do too. This is Matt here for M3. I'm going to sign off. I hope you take this information and you take it deep down inside and you start to view and experience your life in a different way, in a way that gets you all the results that you want, because that's the life that you truly deserve.